time, the July 27th, 2023 meeting of the Citizen Review Board is now called to order. If you will, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I will now ask our meeting clerk, will you please conduct the roll call?
Valdez.
Here.
Ingandella. Here. Akil.
Here.
Guy. Reyes.
Here.
Tamayo.
Here.
Dr. Collins. And Reverend Banks.
Here. Let the record show that all members of the Citizen Review Board are present with the exception of Ms. Irene Guy and Dr. Collins. At this time, I ask our Vice Chair, Colonel Reyes, to read the meeting guidelines.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good evening. Please silence all electronic devices. The duties and the responsibilities of the Citizens Review Board are to review completed department investigations involving use of force and cases of importance and interest to the community or the city. Determine whether the disposition of reviewed cases was consistent with department policies and procedures. Review matters of importance or interest and make recommendations regarding the handling of these matters. Determine whether any revisions or additions to department policy and procedures are appropriate in reviewing matters of or importance or interest, and report findings and recommendations to the mayor and the chief of police. Cases that are brought before the Citizens Review Board are closed internal affairs cases that have been investigated and brought to the police chief for disposition. It is the Citizens Review Board's job to review the cases and render an opinion as to whether the investigation was done according to department policies and procedures. The Citizens Review Board members are provided the investigative files in advance of the meeting. The Citizens Review Board will hear from the department whenever matters of interest or importance are requested for review by the board or the department. The coordinator for the board is Captain Patrick Mesmer. Any person who wishes to make a complaint concerning a matter which may be considered by the Professional Standards Bureau should see Captain Mesmer for information on how to file a complaint. And finally, the board should not discuss matters where the city or the department may likely be a party in litigation. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Colonel Reyes. Moving on to item 4, approval of the minutes from the meeting of June 27th, 2023. Are there any questions or provisions? Hearing none, I would need a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
I move.
Second.
Board Member Colonel Reyes has made a motion to approve the minutes of June 27th, 2023. Board Member Lincoln Tamayo has seconded the motion of approval of the minutes of June 27th, 2023. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we will continue with the vote. All those in favor, please show by raise of hand. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Continue with item 5, public comment. Do we have any participants for the public comment portion of our agenda? Seeing none, I will now ask whether there were any recorded comments received through the voicemail for the agenda of this particular meeting. Upon last month's meeting, there was a late recorded message that was tabled for today. Are you going to just read that message, or we're going to hear the voice?
I can, if that's council's preference, I can go ahead and read it into the record.
Yes, if you will, please.
Okay. Ian McAllister, City Attorney's Office, reading into the record the recorded voicemail. Quote, Sandra Zerke states, quote, in the 1700s, the police were designed to capture runaway slaves and brutalize them. To this day, we place minorities behind bars for state profiting and mass slavery. We see cops brutalizing lives. We see officers engaged in racism and hatred. We also have a policing system in Tampa that was covering an identity of a pedophile, a system that was falsified evidence, again, direct quote, to the Bayshore incident and falsely convicted an innocent person, a system that actively destroys evidence of a hate crime of minorities, I don't see the police department near fit to address the racism that's current in the fire department. We as citizens do not favor for a system that continues to oppress others, and we will demand redress and proper accountability.
Do we have a name or address for the record?
Yes, sir. Sandra Zickery is the name, no address.
Thank you. I will now ask if the clerk received any written comments for the agenda.
There were no written comments.
That will conclude the public comment portion of our meeting. We'll now continue to item 6.
Wait, can I'm here, I just can't put a public comment. Somebody.
I will open that discussion to the board. We'll have continued with the agenda under item 6. We have a voicemail message that was just stated for the record. I think we need a motion to,
We've just listened to the voicemail message that came last month.
yeah. At this point, we're going to continue with the agenda. Continue with item 7. Items to be reviewed. Tonight, we're reviewing item 6. Anyone want to make a comment or a statement in reference to any public comment that was before the agenda tonight? Here and now, we'll continue with item 7 on the agenda, items to be reviewed. Tonight, we're reviewing case number 18R-003. If I can have a member of Tampa Police Department to present the case.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. This is Detective DeGagney with Tampa Police Department Professional Standards Bureau. I will be reviewing Tampa Police Department Internal Affairs case number 18R-003. This is a required investigation conducted by our Internal Affairs Bureau. On April 1st, 2018, Tampa police officers, Sergeant was contacted by a senior member of the South Fulton, Georgia Police Department and advised a wanted homicide suspect by the name of Timothy Wyatt was in Tampa. Officers utilized state-of-the-art technology to locate the vehicle at a gas station at 15th Street and Hillsborough Avenue. The officers positively identified Timothy Wyatt as the driver of the vehicle using a recent photograph given to officers by South Fulton Police. Tampa Police Sergeant, once the officers identified him, they attempted a traffic stop on Wyatt's vehicle, but he fled. A Tampa Police Sergeant who was actively involved in the pursuit was shot at by Wyatt in the area of Sly and Nebraska Avenue. Thankfully, Wyatt missed his target. Officers did lose sight of Wyatt for a short period of time, but Wyatt was quickly intercepted by the Tampa Police Department Aviation Unit on Martin Luther King Boulevard, Junior, South. The Tampa Police Aviation Unit directed officers to Wyatt's location on 28th Avenue between 14th Street and 15th Street. Wyatt stopped his vehicle that he was driving, exited, and walked toward the intersection of 28th Avenue at 15th Street. He produced two 9mm semi-automatic handguns and began firing at officers as well as an innocent civilian's vehicle who happened to be in the intersection. One of his bullets struck the rear window of that innocent civilian's vehicle. As officers tactically converged on Wyatt, Wyatt approached the innocent civilian's vehicle occupied by a very frightened female driver. Thankfully, she had her door locked, which prevented a violent carjacking or even worse, a hostage situation. 4 officers were in fear for their lives and fear for the lives of innocent bystanders. Wyatt's action forced officers to fire their departmental issued firearms until there was no longer an active threat. Wyatt succumbed to his injuries even though CPR was rendered. Thankfully, no one else, including our officers, were injured during this extremely tense and stressful standoff with this prolific, violent felony offender. The Hillsborough County State Attorney's Office reviewed the shooting and determined that all officers were justified in using deadly force. Additionally, no officers violated any of Tampa Police Department's policy during this investigation. And I just wanted to kind of give you a background on this suspect, Mr. Wyatt. So that same morning on April 1st, 2018, in South Fulton, Georgia, it's a suburb of Atlanta, suspect Timothy Wyatt allegedly murdered his girlfriend with a .45 caliber semi-automatic firearm. Her 12-year-old son was awakened by the gunfire and his mother screaming, and immediately ran to her aid. As the child entered the room, Wyatt turned the gun on the child, fired one round, striking him in the groin. The child was able to limp out of the house to safety. By this time, the deceased mother's other son, who was 14 years old, was also awakened. He attempted to intervene. He walked in and saw Wyatt holding the gun. He said, "Why did you shoot my mama?" And Wyatt raised the gun at him, the second child, and fired one round, striking him in the back as he ran. He ran to the safety of his bedroom, where he hid, and Wyatt tried to knock down the door, but he was unsuccessful. Wyatt fled and then came to Tampa, and that's where we intercepted him.
If you will, Mr. Tamayo.
Detective, thank you. Report, just some further context, this suspect was on parole for a 2005 aggravated assault, firing his weapon on police officers in Georgia, correct?
That is correct. He was no stranger to violence against police or anybody else for that matter.
Exactly, and he'd just come out of prison after, I think, a shortened, I think it was a 15-year term he had, and left after 9 years. He was the one who first fired his weapon when he was in the vehicle.
That is correct.
Okay. And when the chase first started, did the police officers turn on their lights?
Yes.
And sirens?
Lights and sirens, yes.
So he knew full well that he was being pursued by police officers. And also to give us a context on the time of day and the visuals that the officers had during the pursuit. This was during daylight?
That's correct.
Okay, very good. The officers, I just counted, fired 52 rounds, but they had been fired upon, and they were also fired upon first when they intercepted him at the corner of 15th and 28th, correct?
That's correct.
He's the one who first fired, had two weapons, two 9mm weapons. 52 rounds fired by our officers. Do we have a count of the number of rounds that he fired at them?
At him, I do not have that count, sir.
Okay, but he fired from both
Both
guns,
9mm weapons,
both
yes.
to the north and to the west.
That's
as he
correct.
was approaching the officers, and also fired toward the minivan, which he blew out the back.
Yes.
The back window. Okay. The officers were also, these were plainclothes officers?
Yes, but they were equipped with police tactical vests,
Exactly.
and their badges exposed, and lights and sirens on their vehicles. And
Okay. Were there any commands made when Wyatt left his vehicle to
Yes.
stop or anything?
officers told him to stop, police, drop the gun. They gave him verbal warnings.
And then after those commands, he then proceeded to fire upon the officers?
That's correct.
Okay, very good. That's really all I need to know. Thanks.
If you will, Colonel Reyes.
Just a couple questions. One with training and the other one more of a technical nature based on how they were able to geolocate the suspect. So the first one is on the weapons qualification, and I just need a clarification because I think I know the answer. But on the investigation supplement, it stated that all three had successfully qualified the weapons within the previous 12 months. So I'm assuming it's policy that 1 year qualification?
Yes, sir.
Right,
Yes.
exactly, okay. And so, I just need this clarified. On the previous investigation, on the summary, it stated that one of the officers qualified, it said, Officer blank, qualified with his department issued blank on March 29, 2017. Is that date the date of his qualification on the weapon, or when he was issued the weapon and he, in effect, qualified subsequent to that? That makes any sense? because I'm looking at the 1 year. That's really, okay, so let me back up for a second. If March 29th, 2017 was the date that he qualified, or she, the officer, qualified on the weapon, the event happened on the 1st of April. And although that's only like 3 days, it's 3 days out of currency. So again, this is just a technical question, but it just caught my eye.
Okay,
Qualification piece.
I don't have the answer to that. I'll have to go back and look, Colonel Reyes. I'll look at the officer. Can you restate where it says, what was the date
Yeah.
that he said
Okay,
he's qualified on?
Right, in the memo that's subject Internal Affairs Unit Case 18R003 involving officers, and there's a synopsis and a summation. The second to last paragraph states, Officer blank qualified with his department-issued blank on March 29th, 2017. And then, on the investigative supplement, another summary, I highlighted it, in the paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth paragraph, it says, it's on page 2, all 3 officers had successfully qualified with those weapons within the previous 12 months.
Okay,
So I'm just looking at the date, March 29, 2017. The event happened on 1 April 2018.
so there's a little
like 3 days.
discrepancy,
Yeah, there's like a lapse.
Okay, yeah, I'll
all.
have to look at that
Yeah.
and address that and go back with the training records, and I'll get back with you on that
And
one.
here's why, sir, why I asked that question, because, again, and listening to Mr. Tamayo and his mentioning of the number of rounds that were fired,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just looking at it as a normal person, you have an overwhelming, number of rounds that were fired, and I totally get it. I don't question any of that, or the circumstances. One of the things I look at, in my experience, is, I look at qualifications and proficiencies. And so when I saw that date and I paid attention to the actual date of the event, something didn't jive with me, so I had to kind of look at it a couple times to do my simple math, and then I realized, wait a minute, this could possibly be 3 days out of currency. And maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it's an administrative oversight, I don't know. But I guess, in this time and age, when we're looking at cases, that technical proficiency of our officers, to include weapons proficiency, is of course very important. And, the community would also think that's important as well. So that's why I raised that
Okay,
question.
absolutely, and that's something I'm gonna have to go back to look at the training
That's
records,
fine.
make sure that there was no oversight on our part.
Absolutely.
But I can tell you this, that one of the things that we do after officers are involved in police shootings, and after we are cleared to go back to work
Right.
by a department psychologist, officers do qualify again with those weapons to make sure that they're proficient. But I will get an answer for you tomorrow. I will have you something.
Yes, sir, thank
Okay.
you. I have one more question, and it's technical, so I apologize, but it's relevant to me. So, I understand this all occurred because of a ping on the phone,
Correct.
from, Georgia. So I guess my very, simple question is, what were the means of verification that phone was actually verified as the suspect's phone, and that was the suspect at the end of that phone versus a burner phone?
That verification was done by the Georgia Police Department, the
Okay.
police department in Georgia, as well as the U.S. Marshal's Office.
Okay, so based on Georgia's assessment,
That's correct.
then that's what you took and you stipulated that?
Yes.
Then that's when you had your probable cause. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
And I detected then the U.S. Marshal's Office was brought into play because it was obvious that he had crossed state lines. Is that why they were brought into play?
Yes, sir. Their task force is usually involved in any violent felony offender captures. So that's correct.
Well, I only had, and I think you might have just answered this particular concern, but my concern is the increase of new residents. It has its pros and cons, and Cons could reflect with the increase of crimes that Tampa may or may not typically investigate. My concern is what type of communication threads do we have with neighboring states? And what type of working relationships do we possess with the FBI, Fugitive Task Force, U.S. Marshals, and to ensure the safety of our citizens moving forward?
Well, this is just one example of our relationships with departments around the country. Even this is a small suburban department outside of Atlanta. So our relationship with them was outstanding. We were able to work together and successfly, and thankfully no one else was injured in this case, and he was able to not take anyone else with him. And our department with our federal agencies have never been better. We have officers that are on task force with ATF, FBI, Homeland Security, DEA. So our working relationship has never been better as it is today. That's for sure.
That's good. Very comfortable to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Valdez.
Yeah, and in this case, I do want to commend everyone involved in the way the case was handled, from the Georgia Police Department that called in, to the U.S. Marshal, to the picture that was given to the officers. Everything was really, really detailed and lined up smoothly. So I appreciate everyone's energy and effort into this case and really, following all the dots and all the teeth to it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valdez.
Any other questions, comments, statements, concerns? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, if you also recognize that Dr. Collins is present for the meeting as we continue, chair is open to a motion whether we concur or not concur, or even unable to reach a determination regarding the deposition of case 18R-003 and its findings.
I'll make a motion that we concur with the decisions and finding of this case.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Board Member Carlos Valdez has made a motion that we concur with the disposition and the findings of case 18R-003. Board Member Lincoln Tamayo has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll continue with the vote. All those in favor, please show by raising hand. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. We can now continue with Community and Tampa Police Department matters.
There's nothing on that, sir.
Thank you. Continue with CRB staff reports and business.
Nothing for that item.
The only items to be continued is the case matter for Kelsey Sturmiski, case 21C-171. And again, that case will be presented October 24th, 2023, CRB public meeting. Any further announcements or new business?
Mr. Chair,
If you will, Mr. Tamayo.
could we take a 1 month hiatus, as we're still in our summer months and doesn't seem to be too much on the agenda or that we're anticipating before September or October?
That's up for this discussion. As far as our ordinance, I think we have met the requirements as far as the monthly meetings that's required within the year. So we do have that liberty. Chair is open for further discussion. And if so, I'll be open to a motion.
I move that we cancel our scheduled August meeting of the CRB.
August being a back-to-school month, I know a lot of us are parents here on the panel, and with the interview panel and some of the other things going on, I'm open to a second.
A second.
Lincoln Tamayo has made a motion to cancel August 22nd, 2023 meeting. Colonel Reyes has seconded the motion of the cancellation of August 22nd, 2023 meeting. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we will continue with the vote. All those in favor, please show by raise of hand. Any opposed? The next meeting within September, and we'll have an open calendar for the scheduled meeting for September. If you will, Dr. Collins.
Hate to ask anything, and I'm this late, but did we talk about the follow-up from last month for the, what was it, the survey? And it was something else.
In reference to the survey, I believe from last month's discussion, we're awaiting to hear about what role we will play in the joint venture. I believe TPD is creating a community survey. I know that we all received 2 years of the past community survey. We will continue to brief that material and come up with suggestions in reference to the findings of what direction TPD wants to go with the community survey and what role CRB will play in that joint venture.
So we shouldn't, and we don't need to send anything, let's just wait till September? Can we put it on the September agenda?
If you will.
No, I was just saying if that will be on the September agenda, so we'll have a follow-up by the time we get back.
Yes, ma'am. Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the Legal Department. Mr. Chair, the next scheduled Citizens Review Board meeting, according to our calendar, is September 26th of 2023.
Thank you. Next meeting of the Citizen Review Board that is scheduled is September 26th, 2023, here at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602 at 6 o'clock. Before I adjourn this meeting, I would like to give any of our board members the opportunity for any final comments, statements at this time.
Just a comment.
If you will, Mr. Valdez.
I know the department started doing their town hall Tuesday meetings. There's one going on tonight. I attended the one that happened 2 weeks ago or so, and I just wanted to share with you all, encourage everybody to attend, the public. It's real positive, the dialogue that's going on. So I commend the department for putting that on and for keeping it in the forefront, because it's important to get out with the community and have those discussions. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valdez.
Mr. Chair,
With Mr. Tamayo.
if we can just get a notice again, just to remind us, say like 2 weeks before the town hall meeting, so if we're available, because I would have loved, and I found out after the fact. I know that they're putting out the dates, but I'm not constantly following through social media, so we can just get a notice, say a week or two before each town hall with the police. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yes, and in reference to the Tuesday town hall meeting or any other events that the CRB members would like to attend, again, this information is on the website, but if we can get some type of direct agenda, what's moving forward, allow us the ability to schedule and be present, be greatly appreciated. If there's nothing else, thank you, and please be safe. The Citizen Review Board is now adjourned.
That was the quickest meeting of the year.
Wow.